Becky and Trish had all the makings to be a iconic feud. But this feud to me has been going on long enough. And we were supposed to get a finish, a conclusion to this, underwhelming feud on Raw last night. And the match went to a double countout. And now we're going to get a steel cage. So basically, that Trish cannot escape from Becky because Trish keeps running away from Becky. So we got to do a steel cage. So obviously that's going to be done at Payback, I'm assuming. And that's going to be the end of their feud. But, this feud has really dragged out, and it really did not have to. This feud could have been over by SummerSlam. It could have been over by SummerSlam. And you talk about Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus. This was supposed to be one of the best female feuds in a while. And it turned out to be the complete opposite. Now, I don't know what went wrong exactly, but the promos that these two have cut on each other, it just hasn't clicked. Now, their match at Night of Champions was solid. They have okay chemistry in the ring. I'm not too blown away by their in-ring chemistry. But when it comes to them cutting promos on one another, it's not particularly good. And it has not been clicking. It just hasn't been clicking at all. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if there's a disconnect between Becky and Trish and when it comes to Triple H and the creative team. But they're really not making this work. And this was supposed to be something for Trish, something for Trish to come out of retirement, to kind of sink her teeth into a meaningful storyline with someone like Becky, And that's something that Trish said herself, that the only way I'm going to come out of retirement is if I have something meaningful to sink my teeth into. The only way I'm going to come out of retirement is if what I'm doing is actually worth doing. Something that's not going to waste my time. And you're thinking, okay, this is something that she was referring to in terms of something meaningful, something that had a purpose. And having a feud with Becky Lynch would have been, what the doctor ordered, and something that fans would be clamoring for as well, right? Now, on paper, this is definitely an iconic feud, something that could have been really good, right? But it just hasn't. And a lot of people just want this feud to be over with and to end. And at first, I was kind of feeling the same way about the Cody and Brock feud, right? But when I look back, that feud ultimately was inherently better than Becky and Trish. Now, the inclusion of Zoe Stark kind of freshened things up a little bit because you're utilizing a new talent. You're utilizing a younger face, which is always good. You want to utilize your younger talents. But Zoe in this feud hasn't been impressive at all. She's very good inside the ring, very impressive inside the ring, but when it comes to on that microphone, she's not cutting it. She's not getting the job done. And I was expecting to see Lita at one point. You know, that would have been kind of cool if she made an appearance after Trish attacked her, right? And she couldn't defend those women tag team titles with Becky on that one Raw. And that was the Raw where Trish turned on Becky after they lost the titles. You know. But I don't know if we want to see Lita get inside the ring one more time due to what we saw in her last match on Raw back in February, because that was kind of hard to watch. I ain't gonna lie. But I don't know. Do you guys think that this feud ultimately fell flat? I think it did. You know, personally. Would a feud with Sasha Banks and Trish Stratus been a lot better? I'm assuming it would have been. And honestly, that's a feud that I wouldn't mind seeing if Sasha was still here. You know, a storyline with Trish and Sasha would have been more entertaining. You know, I thought Trish and Charlotte's match at SummerSlam was really good, and that's when Trish looked her best. You know, she looked really good in that match, was on point and everything. But and I made a video like a couple months ago saying how a heel Trish Stratus is best for business. You know, in terms of lighting a fire in the women's division, making the women's division more interesting, right? Hopefully, it would bring the best out of the women's division, but you know, in judging what we have seen the past 3-4 months, that has not been the case at all. So I'm looking at this as a failure because the women's division on Raw in general is just lacking. Okay, it's just lacking. It sucks. You know, it's not establishing anything meaningful or creating decent television at all. Right? I mean, you barely have a women's world title feud going on. Rhea Ripley can't even find an opponent for her title, you know? And when it comes to Becky and Trish, you know, they're just stalling. And they're just giving Becky, they're just dragging this whole storyline months on months just to keep Becky busy. And I know the end goal is to do Becky and Rhea for that women's world title, right? That's their ultimate goal because they've been teasing that match ever since late last year. But you know they're holding off on that. I thought they were going to do Becky and Rhea for SummerSlam. I have a hunch that they're going to save that for WrestleMania. And the reason why they want to keep prolonging this feud with Trish and Becky, even though it's boring and it hasn't been interesting, it hasn't been riveting at all, it's to keep her busy. It's to keep her occupied until she feuds with Rhea. And Payback, that's when this whole feud is going to conclude. And the steel cage match, Trish can't run away. She can't escape. I mean, she can escape the cage, but there's no hiding. And you saw in the last match, Trish tried to run away. She kept escaping. She kept trying to avoid Becky. Now in this match, she can't run away. So, Payback, I'm expecting this to be the end. Wrap this up. Trish can go home, go back on retirement because it's simply not working. I think Trish works better as a face. Maybe she does. But something, it just isn't clicking, man. It's just not clicking, and I don't know what it is. I give Trish credit for trying to make it work, for trying to be entertaining and creative and stuff like that. But the fans, you can tell the fans are not into it. Like, you can tell by the fans' reaction. They're just not into it. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think they want to boo Trish. I just don't think they want to boo Trish. Because she doesn't have that same effect that she has as a heel today than the effect that she had back then in the early 2000s. Right? It doesn't have the same effect. It's not hitting the same as it did before. And what you did great back then is probably not going to translate well to the modern day audience, right? You may have a shtick, you may have, a certain character that worked back then, but it just doesn't work with today's audience, right? It just doesn't work. And Trish's heel persona, in my opinion, it doesn't work in 2023. It just doesn't. And Becky knows herself that this feud has flopped. I mean, why do you think they didn't have the SummerSlam card? Why do you think they were an omission? I personally believe they could have replaced Shayna and Ronda with Becky and Trish, because that match sucked. That match was garbage. Hard to watch. Good Lord, that was hard to watch and get through. But I'm predicting that after this feud, Becky's not going to immediately go into a feud with Rhea, because like I said, they're going to say that to WrestleMania. And, when they want to keep two wrestlers apart, they usually have the two wrestlers, they keep them busy in between now and until they start feuding. And obviously Rhea is going to be tangled up with Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell, Raquel Rodriguez, and Liv Morgan when she gets back. And then she'll get to Becky. And most likely Shayna too, because Shayna Baszler is being built up as, as a contender, right? But on Raw last week, Shayna Baszler told Becky, like, listen, I have unfinished business and I got some scores to settle. So understand that I'm coming after you whenever you're done with Trish. And she made it clear to Becky that I'm coming after you. So that's also something to look out for as well. I can see Becky and Shayna mixing it up after she's done with Trish. So, and that's going to keep Becky busy, right? Until she gets to Rhea Ripley. So, yeah, maybe this feud wasn't meant to be as good as we had hoped for it to be. And it is what it is. You know, their matches have been decent. I'm not gonna lie. It's just it's not always the matches though. It's what you do to like build up to the match that makes it must see. And nothing has been must see when it comes to Trish and Becky. Like I said, Trish's heel turn is not clicking. And the responses for Becky have not been the best. She's not getting those 2018, 2019 responses. No, she's definitely not. So this feud ultimately has flopped, and it could be their fault collectively, the creative's fault for not putting much effort into it. But regardless whose fault it is, the feud, the match, the feud, the storyline, it just isn't working. So let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think that this feud has flopped, has been a failure, and what do you expect who do you expect for Becky to feud with next after Trish? Because I'm assuming it's going to be Shayna Baszler, you know. So that being said, this is another edition of Rational Wrestling Talk. Thank you all for watching. Like the video, subscribe today, and I'm out. Peace.